Welcome to the deep dive. Just look around the world today, and it's pretty clear. Global conflicts seem to be escalating, tensions are definitely rising, and the need for nations to be, well, truly prepared for whatever the 21st century throws at them. It's never felt more urgent. It's a challenging time, no doubt. And against this backdrop, India's Ministry of Defense has made a really big announcement. They've declared 2025 as the year of reforms. This sounds like a major push to modernize their armed forces, maybe even redefine their strategic position. It seems like it's about more than just new kit, right? More about sovereignty, self-reliance. So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack what these reforms actually involve. Why now? And how exactly are they aiming to transform India's defense sector? We'll look at the specific initiatives and also the role of DRDO, the Defense Research and Development Organization, because they seem pretty central to all this. Okay, let's start with the why. What's the real strategic imperative here? What's driving this declaration of 2025 as the year of reforms? Is it specific vulnerabilities?
Well, I think the critical element here is the context. India has, for a long time, relied pretty heavily on foreign suppliers for defense needs. And that dependence, it wasn't just about the cost. It often meant older tech, maybe less control over supply chains, and ultimately, strategic weak spots. So these reforms are a direct response to that, an urgent one.
Okay, so closing those gaps.
Exactly. And the bigger picture goals are, pretty clear. Better joint operations, Army, Navy, Air Force working together seamlessly, bringing in and actually using new tech, and just generally boosting combat readiness. It's all about securing the nation, its sovereignty in, a world that's changing fast. The Defense Minister, Rajnath Singh, he called it a landmark step. I think that sums up the ambition. It's a long-term vision.
Right, that makes sense. So with that context, let's zero in on what sounds like the biggest structural change, the integrated theater commands.
Yeah.
Can you break that down? How does it change how the forces operate day to day, and why is it seen as such a game changer?
Yeah, that's definitely a core piece. You have to think about operational efficiency. Right now, the Army, Navy, Air Force, they often work in their own, let's call them silos. They coordinate, of course, but they aren't always operating as one unified unit from the very start of, say, a mission or operation.
And that causes delays.
It absolutely can. Critical delays.
Yeah.
And in modern warfare, time is just, it's everything. It can literally be the difference between success and failure.
Okay.
So integrated theater commands fundamentally change that picture. Instead of separate commands for each service branch, you'll have specific geographical areas, maybe the China border, Ladakh to Arunachal, or the Pakistan border, or functional sectors like maritime security. And in that theater, there's one command, a single commander responsible for Army, Navy, and Air Force assets in that zone.
Oh, I see. All three services reporting to one person for that specific area.
Precisely. Operating together right from the planning stage, it means much better coordination, much greater efficiency, and critically, it saves time. It's a model you see in many developed military powers. And it was something India's first Chief of Defense Staff, General Bipin Rawat, really championed before his unfortunate passing.
That sounds incredibly efficient, definitely on paper. But, these services have long, proud, separate traditions. What about the cultural side? Are there challenges in getting everyone on the same page under one command like that?
That's a really important point. Cultural integration is often, the toughest part of these big systemic shifts, the main hurdles. Probably harmonizing different ways of operating, different doctrines, integrating logistics, which can be very complex, and maybe most importantly, fostering that shared joint identity. Getting personnel who strongly identify as Army, Navy, or Air Force to think and act as one team under a theater commander. It takes a lot of training, trust building, and really clear leadership from the top. But the intent seems very strong.
Okay, moving beyond the structure then. What about the tools, the actual tech? How is India planning to embrace the future of warfare technology-wise?
Right. Technology is huge here. There's a significant push for what they call emerging technologies. So think artificial intelligence, machine learning, hypersonics, robotics. The sources specifically mention drones, for instance. Their disruptive impact is obvious, operating without a human directly present, changing the whole battlefield calculus.
Hypersonics, too. That sounds like a massive leap.
It is. And the real challenge with things like hypersonics and AI, it isn't just getting the tech. It's adapting everything else, legacy systems, military doctrine itself. Hypersonics aren't just fast missiles. They potentially change offensive and defensive strategies entirely because traditional defenses struggle to cope. So integrating them means new operational concepts, not just new hardware.
So it's acquisition and integration. And training, I assume.
Absolutely. The emphasis is on proactively integrating these technologies and, crucially, training personnel thoroughly. The aim is to try and get ahead of the curve, not just react.
And how do the different branches, Army, Navy, Air Force, practice working together within India? You mentioned muscle memory for cooperation. How important is building that domestically?
That's where this inter-service cooperation piece comes in. It's vital.
Yeah.
The plan includes regular operational training exercises domestically, specifically between the Indian Army, Navy, and Air Force.
So like the joint exercises they do with, say, the US or France, but internal.
Exactly like that, but internal. And building that muscle memory at home is, well, profoundly significant. It means they're training in their own operational backyard with their own kit under conditions that directly mirror potential real-world scenarios for India.
Okay, that makes sense. It ensures they can mesh smoothly during a real crisis without figuring it out on the fly.
Precisely. Without the variables you might get when training with foreign partners who use different systems or operate under different doctrines.
Now, to get all this new tech and equip these unified forces, they need equipment. And procurement, getting that equipment has been an issue, hasn't it? How are they planning to streamline that?
Yes, procurement is a major focus. You just have to look at past examples. The acquisition process has often been incredibly slow, very bureaucratic. The Rafale fighter jet deal is often cited. It took, 15, maybe 20 years to finalize? And it wasn't without controversy either.
15 to 20 years, wow. By the time you get the plane, the next generation is already being designed elsewhere.
That's exactly the problem. It starkly highlights why they need to simplify these procedures, make them time-bound, ensure equipment gets to the forces when it's needed cost-effectively, and, while it's still state-of-the-art.
So what specific changes are we talking about? Just cutting red tape? Or is it more fundamental? New accountability measures, perhaps?
It seems to be more than just simplifying forms. The aim is systemic change. Things like streamlining licensing, making the tendering process clearer, more transparent, and importantly, putting strict timelines on decision-making at each step. There's also talk of, yes, greater accountability within the bureaucracy handling acquisitions, maybe even financial incentives for timely delivery, penalties for delays. The whole system needs to become more agile.
Okay, agility. And what about making more of this equipment in India, boosting domestic production?
This is absolutely central. The public-private partnership, or PPP, model is key here. The focus is really on improving the ease of doing business for private Indian companies in the defense sector.
Making it easier for them to get involved.
Yes, making it genuinely attractive. Clear regulations, simpler processes, and crucially, transferring technology from the big public sector defense units like DRDO and others to private industry. This isn't just about Make in India for the sake of it. It's about building a robust, self-reliant defense industrial base that can innovate, respond quickly, cut down those long import lead times, and make India less vulnerable to, say, geopolitical supply chain shocks.
And exports. Can India realistically move from being a major importer to a significant exporter of defense equipment?
That's definitely the ambition. Right now, India's defense exports, while growing, are still, a tiny fraction of the global market. The plan is to change that. How? By increasing spending on research and development, R&D, and by actively encouraging partnerships between Indian companies and established foreign defense manufacturers, the OEMs.
So joint ventures, technology sharing, that sort of thing.
Exactly. The idea is to produce cutting-edge equipment domestically, not just for India's forces, but explicitly for export too, shifting the balance from importer to exporter over time.
Okay, we've talked structure, tech, industry. What about the people? The soldiers, sailors, airmen, and veterans. How do the reforms address the human element?
That's a really vital piece. The plan includes a strong focus on veteran welfare. And it's not just about pensions and healthcare, though that's important. It's also about leveraging the immense knowledge and experience that retired personnel have.
How so?
By bringing them into the innovation process, perhaps. Or, crucially, having them mentor the younger generations joining the forces, passing on that invaluable real-world experience. It's a smart way to retain institutional knowledge and skills.
That does sound smart. And finally, there's this psychological aspect you touched on earlier, building national pride and confidence in homegrown capabilities. How critical is that?
It's arguably one of the most fundamental shifts needed. There has been perhaps a historical tendency sometimes to doubt the quality or capability of Indian-made defense products, maybe an implicit bias towards imports.
Right, the assumption that foreign is always better.
Exactly. So this reform aims squarely at that mindset. It's about fostering genuine pride in indigenous capabilities, celebrating the successes like the Tejas aircraft or various missile systems, while of course acknowledging the need to constantly improve and meet or even exceed global standards. It's about building national self-belief in India's own military-industrial complex. That's crucial for true strategic autonomy.
So bringing this all together, it's a huge undertaking. Integrated commands, new tech, faster procurement, boosting local industry, valuing veterans, building pride. It's incredibly ambitious for 2025.
It really is, and the driving force, as mentioned, came from that high-level review led by the defense minister. The conclusion was stark. Delays aren't acceptable anymore. India perceives itself as lagging in certain defense areas, and these reforms are the strategic push to catch up and perhaps even leapfrog.
So the urgency is real.
Absolutely. These steps are seen as vital for India's whole modernization journey, for its ambition to be a major player on the world stage in the 21st century. It's about self-reliance, readiness, and transforming its strategic posture on a grand scale.
It certainly sounds transformative. So thinking ahead, and maybe something for you, the listener, to consider, if India pulls this off, if these reforms truly take hold, what might a transformed Indian defense sector mean for global power dynamics? And perhaps more broadly, what lessons can we draw from one nation's determined push for self-reliance and modernization in the face of such a rapidly changing and often challenging world?